Okay, this is going to be the latest project. Going to be doing an upgrade on this bad boy. Now, some of the first things that are going to be happening, this is a 120 millimeter fan here. This will be going because of the cooling solution I'm going to be using. Up here are two 120 millimeter fans that they'll be going because I'm going to replace it with a single 200 millimeter fan. The other part of it now, back here, the motherboard. This is an Asus Z87 Pro motherboard, and it has a Intel 4770K processor on board, both of which technology-wise they are still good today, and still have some life left on it as far as technology goes. But it's time for me I decided it was time to upgrade. Also, this is air cooling. Got the heat sink on top of this. Sits on top of the processor with heat sink and the fan. Now I have this set up because of the memory over here. I set it the other way. I have the fan pulling air through and then forcing it out toward the rear fan, which is pulling air out of the case, as are the two fans up here. Now, the motherboard, everything in here is going to be changed out. Motherboard, processor, cooling, as well as the memory over here. Now, come down a little bit, like so, and have the two hard drives here. They'll stay, plus the solid state drive here, that'll stay, and the power supply here, that'll stay. And of course up there, up here in this corner, you have the optical drive. That'll also be staying. And the graphics card here is a fairly recent upgrade, probably within the last month or two. So that's just going to be switched over to the new motherboard. Now, overall, the job is not as bad as it may seem. Fairly simple, although what I'm putting in here, putting in for the cooling on the processor is a bit different. I've always used air cooling. This time I'm going to be giving water cooling a try, see how well that works on the processor. I'm not too concerned about the airflow in here. I put the 200 millimeter. Now when I put up here, that'll be pulling air out. And over here on this side, I have a 200 millimeter that's bringing air in. Now when I put the water cooling in, I was thinking about how I wanted to arrange this and how I wanted to configure it. But normally, on this, I would have having it blowing out, pulling hot air out of the case. But with being water cooling, you got a fan, radiator, another fan. The logical thing would be is to pull the cool air in using this fan, blowing it through the radiator, and this fan here would be pulling it through. And it only leaves you with the one 200 millimeter exhaust. But up here, but you do have a lot of air intake between there and here, plus the cover, it fits over this, has a vent, so that should not be a problem as far as the airflow goes and temps go. It'll probably keep the inside of the case pretty cool. Well, hopefully it will. And now, swinging around here, right here we have the 200 millimeter fan that'll be going into the top. That should be plenty. That's about all I can put in there anyway, so it better be plenty. Now, this is the water cooling right here. The Corsair H80i GT. and that should be pretty good. It's got some good reviews on it, so we're hoping it's going to do. And this motherboard is going to be the new motherboard going in. It's got a different chipset, Z170. It's the latest chipset out, and it has a lot of good features to it. Particularly, it also uses DDR4 RAM memory, and which is, quite frankly, it's a step up from the DDR3. And speaking of which, I had to buy new memory because this will not accept DDR3. So we got the G.Skill Ripjaws 4. This is 2133 megahertz RAM. Although I could have gone over 3000 megahertz, but it's like buying computer parts though. The faster it is, the faster the stuff is, the faster the money goes out of your billfold. So you got to kind of make a little bit of a judgment call in there, how much you want to spend and that sort of thing. Then finally, the heart of the whole thing, the processor or CPU. This is a Core i7 unlocked i7 6700E HK. Now, this is the latest processor from Intel. It was codenamed Skylake. Now this just hit the market, so I figured it's time to do the upgrade. Now normally I built this computer in fall of 2011, and I built it then. I was using an Asus Z68 motherboard with a Intel i7 2600K processor. Then in June of 2013 I upgraded it to the configuration it is now with the Z87 Asus Z87 Pro board motherboard and the Intel 4770K processor was codenamed Haswell. The first one was codenamed. The first one I had when I did the original build was codenamed Sandy Bridge. I skipped a few generations primarily because the performance uptick would not justify the cost of doing it. So I waited, and 2 years later they came out with a Haswell, and everything I saw said that was the time to upgrade, and it was, and it justified the cost. Now, there's been a couple more releases. The Devil's Canyon, which is a good processor, a very good processor, then a Broadwell, which I'm not even sure of. I haven't seen a whole lot on it, and I don't think that one's going to be around too long. It'll probably be around somewhere, but manufacturers, as far as I know, hadn't built much with the Broadwell, so who knows. But that's my next project here. And the only mistake I've made, though, is I shouldn't have looked a little bit closer, because this is a EVGA GTX 980. I should have looked a little closer, spent the extra money and got the 980 Ti. There is a difference between the two, not only price-wise, and not that much price-wise, but performance-wise it is. And that's probably about the only regret I have. But other than that, we're going to be taking things apart, putting it together, and see where we go from there, and see how it looks. Get some benchmarks in there, and it's already a beast. It just might add a little more beast to it. And we're gonna have to wait, and I've got some good games to test it on that really will work a system. So I think I'm kind of looking forward to it. I haven't exactly figured out where I'm going to go with the SSD, but at present I'm trying to complete a game, 'Cause right now I'm thinking about just going ahead and nuking the SSD and doing a nice clean install of everything on there, and just start it out really nice and neat and everything. And well, I've been asked, about doing a extreme build, but for the price, I just couldn't see it. Now they got the extreme processors are 6 and 8 cores, but they're also they're also HT, which means the hex core processor with 6 core, you have 12 virtual cores. As far as the octa-core, the 8-core one, you have 16 virtual cores. That's all well and good and everything, except there's not really much of anything out there that would even take advantage of something like that. Heck, right now, they're still not really taking advantage of the quad cores that are out there. So, overall, it's looking like it's going to be a good build. It's going to be a good upgrade, and kind of looking forward to it. Like I said, the one regret I have is not getting the 980 Ti, getting the 980 rather than the 980 Ti. But I got it, so it's staying. I'm not going to put out a whole lot of more. I'll put out any more money on the card. The cards in there is good. So the water cooler is going to be new to me, because I have not worked with that before. Only thing I hope the hoses don't leak and I end up with water in there. Water and electricity just don't work well together. And that's just about the long and the short of it.